Hey everyone, it's Pam here from MySmartCousin, here to drop another financial gem about not only how you can buy a house for the price of a car. As you know, that's my personal favorite way of investing, and one that I think is just so important for many folks to do, and continues to be within reach even in this hot financial market. So not just to talk to you about that, but instead to talk to you about something a little different today. And that's about a business concept that also is very much a personal finance concept, which is called a balance sheet, which is your assets, your liabilities, and your equity, also called your net worth. So the reason that we're going to talk about a balance sheet today is because that is really just a fantastic way of getting some insight on where you stand. Of course, one of the main purposes of buying real estate generally, and certainly specifically buying a house for the price of a car, is that it allows you to be able to, one, if you're living in the house, to be able to have almost no overhead. Of course, you have some overhead, but very little. And if you're not living in the house for the price of a car, then instead to be able to very quickly reach break even on the investment and then keep that remainder as profit. So with a balance sheet, what's valuable about that is it tells you at any point in time, on whatever day you prepare it, it tells you how much you have in assets. And I'll go through in a second what assets are. It then tells you for those assets, how much you have in essentially loans or debt against those assets. And then that difference between those loans, which are also called liabilities. So the difference between the assets and the liabilities is what's left over. In other words, how much equity, how much true ownership. Some folks also call it net worth, how much net worth you have. So let's get into it. Let's talk about assets, liabilities, and equity, also called net worth. So assets can be broken out into a couple of categories. One is the amount of assets that just at the snap of a finger almost, that you can turn into cash. So of course, those kinds of assets right away you would think are good old cash that I got, maybe not even in my bank account, cash I've got in my wallet, cash I keep at home. Then there's the cash that you do have in a bank account. So your savings account, your checking account. And then I would also put investments that you can convert into cash pretty quickly. So think mutual funds, stocks, bonds, right? These days, those can all be sold online very quickly. And then another type of asset is an asset that can't be converted into cash super quickly. Some people call those fixed assets. So that would be stuff like your car. If you have a house for the price of a car, then of course that house. And if not, then any other kind of real estate, and even things like furniture and other furnishings. So what I'd love for you to do is to take out a piece of paper and then just begin to jot down, what do you have in assets, category by category, those that are cash, your savings account, your checking account, mutual funds, any equities that you have, and then those fixed assets. That's going to give you a snapshot of all that you own. From there, we'll then look at your liabilities. So again, liabilities are either what you personally owe, or if let's say you're a cosigner on someone's loan, then it's what you are responsible for, what you have an obligation to pay. So here are some typical liabilities. One, of course, is good old credit cards. Almost everyone these days has at least one credit card. So credit cards are a typical liability. Another one, sadly, in my opinion, is student loans. Sadly, since unfortunately, higher education is not something that comes for free. the same way it does at the elementary, the middle, and the high school level. So student loan debt is another kind of liability that a lot of people have. Medical debt, to some degree, is something that folks have. And real estate mortgages, we know that's something that's quite prevalent. I'd say a last one is probably a car note. So what you should do is then take a look at your bank statements and anything else that records all of those liabilities that you have. Once you do that, you can then add up your liabilities, add up your assets, and then subtract the liabilities from the assets and see how much you have in equity or net worth. Now, I want to let you in on something. We usually imagine that the assets are going to be larger than the liabilities. And so you're going to have positive equity or positive net worth. But I can't even say sometimes. There's a lot of times when the liabilities are going to be larger than the amount of assets that you own. And that is going to mean you have negative net worth, negative equity. Now, don't despair. If you find yourself in that place, you can always climb out from there. But the very first step in that journey is to understand where you stand so that with information, you're armed to go to the next step and then begin to reverse that around. So that's it. That's a balance sheet in a nutshell, something that both businesses use right on up to the largest company in the world, and something that you should use in order to begin to drive your financial journey. That's it. I'm Pam of My Smart Cousin, hashtag My Smart Cousin, www.mysmartcousin.com. Look forward to connecting with you. Give a thumbs up if this was something that was useful to you.